All right, I think we are up and going. We're having a little trouble here. All right. Oh, there we go. All right, I think we got this going. All right. Well, hi, I'm Dr. Jason Pickel, and welcome to the Ask Dr. Pickel show, where we try to find puzzle pieces and solve problems for people's health. And today, the topic was originally more about the immune system and stress. I keep getting more and more people asking more about questions regarding coronavirus, COVID, and what to do, and a lot of questions regarding the past videos we did regarding even the supplements and lifestyle and things like that, all of which are extremely important with everything that's going on. And so I wanted to address more today how stress can affect the immune system, and stress can affect all of this. Actually, stress has big effects on everything. And I think right now there is a lot of stress that has gone on and is continuing to go on in relation to, people are at home a lot still and have been home. So we've got stresses relating to money, stresses relating to relationships, stresses relating to work. I mean, just, so many potential stressors in our life, and how do these affect you and your immune system and the other systems of the body. Actually, I want to talk about even the other systems of the body and things that can be affected, and possibly what can be done to help on that front too. So stress is a big factor, and really there's three types of stress that can affect us. Three main types, let's put it that way. So the first one being physical stress, or not only just stress. Sometimes we can categorize stress as trauma, meaning that, if it's enough stress, it's traumatic and it can affect us even worse. But let's just categorize it now as stress. So physical stress, this would be like, I had a fall, or I was in an accident, I got injured. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can happen to our body physically that are stress. The next category would be emotional stress. These are things that, of course, if something happens with a spouse or a friend or, a relative that is stressful, or a death, or there's so many potentials there that can cause emotional stress, emotional trauma. But this also affects our body, our immune system, everything else. And again, we'll talk about why and how here in a minute. And then the other category is called chemical stress. Now, chemical stress, this would be just things in our environment, certain cleaners we use in our house, certain chemicals we may be exposed to at a workplace. Actually, under this category too, we can talk about infections, which, of course, fits into coronavirus. And then even, further with not only viruses, but other more toxic chemicals. Was I out in a rural or agricultural area and I got susceptible to, or I was affected by some Roundup that got sprayed on me or got sprayed a mile away. So there's all these potential things that can affect our body through different types of stress. So we've got to say, what does this really do? And as far as stress, also, I think, especially in consideration of the situation now, because I'm seeing a lot of patients, a lot of people who are still very stressed out, still very worried, very scared about this virus. And the thing to understand that we're seeing more and more is that if you're healthy, which again, maybe has to be determined, if you're healthy, there may not be much threat there for you. But if you're not, let's say you have diabetes, let's say you have an autoimmune condition, a respiratory condition, if you have a chronic health condition, this could be a very dangerous time still for you. So you do have to be cautious. But the thing is I say there is legitimate concern but we have to put that against illegitimate worry. And those are the things that, battle in our mind. Again, we have to be responsibly concerned about ourselves, about our family, our loved ones, about where we go, what we do, who we're exposed to. So we do have to have that responsibility and that legitimate concern. But when worry creeps in, worry is when the situation is really controlling you, and you're really no longer in control and of that situation or how you respond to it. And that's when it can really affect you. Worry is what I would say is concern gone haywire. That can affect people's sleep. This can affect your health, like we're going to talk about, relationships. So many other factors can be affected by worry. And after a while, worry can actually start to dictate your well-being. And that's when it's out of control. And I've seen this occur with patients or people to extremes. So again, weigh those options: legitimate concern versus illegitimate worry. So there's kind of my 2 cents on that. So what I want to do is I want to kind of dive in a little further here and show you how stress affects the system. Because one thing that stress does to your body is it triggers the brain. And let's put it this way. I noted those types of stress: physical stress, emotional stress, chemical stress. Actually, stress doesn't even have to be real. Let's put it this way. It can be imagined stress. Actually, imagined stress and real stress have the same effect on the brain. So if I imagine a stressful situation, if I imagine, or let's say I see some scary movie that produces stress, or watch a news channel that produces stress, especially right now, that in my brain produces the same stress response as if I just fell on the sidewalk. So any of these things can produce stress, but when that affects the brain, there's an area of the brain called the hypothalamus, and it basically controls all the hormones in our body, and it does a lot of other things too. But it tells your pituitary gland, which sits just right under your brain, and that pituitary gland sends out a messenger. And that messenger, one of the direct areas that it targets is your adrenal glands. And you've probably all heard of the adrenal glands. They live right on top of the kidneys. They're little glands, but they have a lot of jobs. They do a lot of things. But one of the main things they produce is a hormone called cortisol. And that's what I kind of want to go over now. In fact, let me see if I can pull this up and review something here. Just bear with me for 1 second. All right. And let's see if I can share the screen here so you guys can see what I'm looking at. All right. Okay. Oh, one more thing here. All right. So a couple of things that I would like to say, even though I'm sharing the screen with this picture, is there are certain symptoms that go along with stress, and I want to go over those in a minute. But I also want to kind of show you what cortisol does. So let's see if this works. Let me first go to cortisol. Let's see if that's writing on the screen. Probably perfect. Okay. So bear with me if my handwriting isn't the best here. All right, so cortisol. So cortisol is this hormone that's released by the adrenal glands. It's a stress response hormone. It's important. It does do important things. If I'm in an accident, if I'm injured, if there's a bear chasing me, release some cortisol, release some adrenaline, things like that. But stress, regular stress, daily stress from all that's going on, the stress I just talked about. If you release cortisol daily, and we've got stress daily, that starts to produce negative effects on the body. And one thing cortisol does is it really affects your blood sugar. Actually, cortisol takes stored blood sugar out of your muscles, out of your liver, to keep your body going, because you need more energy when you have stress, so the cells have a higher demand. The problem is if you're pulling blood sugar out of those cells, out of those muscles and liver regularly, your blood sugar goes up, and that requires more insulin. When you require more insulin, that causes insulin resistance, which is also called prediabetes, or if you already have a blood sugar issue, you just made your diabetes worse. So again, we don't want high blood sugar on a regular basis. We don't want insulin surges occurring on a regular basis, because this is inflammatory and it really starts to cause blood sugar issues. All right, the other thing that cortisol affects is your thyroid hormones. So your thyroid, which lives right, kind of at the lower part of your neck, this gland makes your thyroid hormones, which allow your body to make energy, have metabolism. Now, the thing is cortisol, when it goes up, it suppresses the ability of your body to turn your thyroid hormones from what's called T4 into T3. And then that lowers your total thyroid hormone that gets to your cells. So now your metabolism slows down, and this can affect your energy. So not a good thing at all in that scenario. The other thing that occurs here is the pituitary gland gets affected. I talked about it a minute ago. But so if you're regularly making a lot of cortisol, that cortisol signals the brain, and the brain is supposed to say, hey, we've got plenty, cut it out, guys, don't make any more. But if regularly you have a lot of cortisol, that can affect that whole feedback mechanism there. And the problem is if the pituitary gland starts to not work properly or get the correct signaling due to cortisol, that starts to cause other symptoms, not only with your thyroid. This can cause low libido. This could cause you to be abnormally thirsty. This could cause women to stop having their menses. This can cause weight gain because of the signaling from the brain to the body on how much to store or not to store, or when to eat and not to eat. The next thing that can occur is it can affect the liver. So the liver is a big detoxifier in the body for a lot of things. Not only chemicals and certain toxins, but even hormones, and there's quite a few things. But cortisol shuts down these detoxification pathways. So not good there, definitely. Another thing too is the gut. So the gut, now the lining of our gut, our intestines, is actually a part of our immune system. It's called secretory IgA. We really need this immune system. It protects the cells. It keeps bad guys from coming in. So if you start to break down this barrier, about 75% of our immune system's in our gut. But if you break down this barrier, not only does it open the door to bad guys that come in, but this could be called a leaky gut scenario, or dysbiosis, maybe a little more technical word there. So again, very negative effect on the gut, and that could increase food intolerances and all kinds of bad stuff. The next thing is the immune system, and this is kind of what we've been talking about with all the COVID issues, or coronavirus there. So cortisol suppresses the immune system. It squashes it. Not good. I mean, not only in the gut, but throughout the body. And we need that immune system to fight bad guys. So stress, even though there is a time when stress, we need our body response to it, chronic stress suppresses the immune system. And of course, that opens the door even worse. That's why, again, people who have a lot of stress in their life can get sick more frequently. And we see that. All right. The other thing that this affects is the stomach. So the lining of the stomach, it's been shown in research, the lining of the stomach can start to be affected or thinned out by high cortisol levels. think of it this way. When people have high stress, what do? They get gastritis. They even get ulcers. So that lining starts to break down. We start to make less of the good stomach acid, which affects our digestion as a whole. And then we get all kinds of problems. So we don't want chronic cortisol. Many problems here. Another one, and this will kind of be related to the stomach and the gut, is bone density. So if you've been diagnosed with osteoporosis, osteopenia, or you're worried about it at all, cortisol is a negative here. Basically, if cortisol affects your gut, you're not going to absorb minerals properly, and also your adrenal glands play a role in your mineral balance. So very important that those adrenal glands are working properly, which doesn't occur with chronic stress. And then also another thing that's affected is our sleep-wake cycle. Our adrenals play a giant part in this. Cortisol plays a big part in this because cortisol, while you sleep, it gets released through the night. It actually rises through the night, which keeps blood sugar going to our brain. In fact, our brain uses about 2/3 of our total blood sugar while we're sleeping. The thing is, though, is if the adrenal glands are making cortisol all the time, not only can this prevent you from falling asleep, but if in the middle of the night you can't make enough cortisol or you make too much, this can wake you up in the middle of the night. The brain has to wake up. So again, there's a lot more that goes into that maybe we can talk about in the future as far as sleep. But definitely, we need good sleep. And sleep is the time when your immune system works the most. So you really need good sleep. So again, what happens when people get stressed out? They don't sleep well. This is all tied together. All right. Another thing, memory. A lot of times they'll say, oh, I'm getting a bad memory because I'm getting older. Well, that's not always true. There's a lot of people who are older who have great memories. So we can't always characterize that. We have to kind of say, why is this occurring? And one thing is this chronic stress, chronic high cortisol levels, or not. When I say chronic, it could be like for just a few weeks or during this whole time that we've been dealing with this coronavirus. Stress rises, cortisol levels rise on a regular basis. Cortisol is actually toxic to an area in your brain. And it happens to be one of the areas that helps regulate cortisol. And it's an area of the brain called the hippocampus. I know it's got a weird name, but one important thing about it is it's our main memory area. So if high cortisol levels over time can start to have negative effects on that hippocampus. So again, memory can be a factor here. Also, the heart. So our heart basically can be affected by high cortisol levels because this high cortisol, these stress responses can increase blood pressure, not good for our heart, can increase triglyceride levels due to the higher blood sugar, and this, of course, not good for the heart. So many factors that can come into play here, but we know that cortisol overall just has a lot of negative effects. So we need to control this stress response and get this under control before it does affect all these different aspects. Let me switch back here. See if I can switch back. All right, and get back to business this way. Okay. All right, we should be back. And then, so what are some different symptoms you could get from all of this? Because I explained some of that as I was doing that drawing. But, fatigue is a big one. That's a big adrenal symptom. And fatigue could be anytime. It could be just fatigue all the time. It could just be more afternoon fatigue. These are all signs of adrenal problems. And when I say adrenal problems, cortisol problems, let's kind of put those hand in hand for right now. Headaches can also be related to cortisol and adrenal problems. If a person gets sick frequently, remember, cortisol can suppress the immune system. Allergies, cortisol will affect your histamine responses and your gut, especially, and a lot of the way your immune system reacts to things in your environment. Slow starter in the morning. You need high cortisol levels first thing in the morning to push blood sugar to your brain to help you to pop out of bed and have energy. But again, if cortisol is low, it's going to be hard to get out of bed in the morning. because you don't have enough blood sugar going to your brain. Now, the thing is too, is on the other side of that, is if cortisol levels are low in the morning, you can release adrenaline, or what they call catecholamines, first thing in the morning, and that'll kind of shut down your digestive tract. And these are people that'll say, in the morning, I just don't have an appetite. I just can't eat. It'll make me feel nauseated. That shouldn't be that way. That's, again, part of this stress response. Gastritis or ulcers. Remember, we said cortisol can affect the lining of the stomach. Afternoon headaches, also a blood sugar issue, which, again, cortisol helps regulate blood sugar. So you got to kind of put those two together. All right. Fullness or bloated feelings, that's gut inflammation. Craving sweets, craving caffeine, craving cigarettes. You're looking for stimulants. Your body's looking for quick sources of fuel or stimulants because your adrenal glands aren't helping you out to keep blood sugar going properly. Blurred vision, this is also an effect of blood sugar. If cortisol or your body's not getting blood sugar to your brain properly, especially the occipital over the brain, we can start to get blurred vision. Shaky or lightheaded if meals are missed or delayed. These are these hypoglycemic symptoms, these low blood sugar symptoms. And pretty much anyone who has low blood sugar, hypoglycemia, has an adrenal issue. It's just hand in hand. Irritable if meals are missed or delayed. You hear about people being hangry. Yeah, that's hypoglycemia. Also relates to blood sugar and adrenal issues. Eating relieves fatigue. So if I eat a meal or I don't really feel energized till after I eat a meal, again, blood sugar, adrenal glands. Even if you go between meals, your adrenal glands should keep blood sugar going to your brain to keep your energy going, keep you feeling good through the day. If they falter, that's when I get these dips and dives, these symptoms that can occur. And even through the night, we can't eat while we're sleeping. So cortisol is that's when its main work shift is while you're sleeping. So it has to keep blood sugar going to your brain all night long. Let's see here. Can't stay asleep, can't fall asleep. Yeah, this is back to adrenal. This is that sleep-wake cycle with cortisol, melatonin, and then getting blood sugar to the brain through the night. I don't want to get into too long details with that because that's a long conversation. Dizziness when change positions. So if you go from sitting to standing or laying to standing and you're like, whoa, I feel dizzy, or everything goes black, or just kind of an odd sensation. Yeah, those adrenal glands also help to regulate blood pressure. It's called orthostatic hypotension, blood pressure to the brain with a hormone called aldosterone. Asthma. So the immune system that's in your gut, just like it has that lining that's affected by cortisol, same thing in the lungs, another lining. It's the same type of immune system that's in the gut, that's in the lungs. And so that can break down and we can start to get symptoms there. Excessive perspiration without activity. So if you feel like you sweat easily, even when you're not really doing much, adrenal. Also, if you crave salt, that's one of the hallmarks of adrenal issues. I just love salt. I like to eat those potato chips all the time. I just crave that salt. And sometimes even another hallmark of adrenal issues, and this can vary, sometimes can be weak fingernails. If you're feeling your fingernails break easily, things like that, this can be a potential with that. So I just wanted to highlight everything there. I hope this was good information for you. If you know or think the adrenal glands are an issue, the first thing to do is usually eat right, get your diet under control. You need to have good blood sugar. You need to eat meals properly. Some of you maybe just need to eat less and more frequently through the day. Those big meals are going to create problems. Sometimes it's the things you're eating, high carbs, high sugars. These are going to put more stress on things. The caffeines, the stimulants. Diet plays such a big part, and there's a lot more details that I don't have to go into right now. And then, of course, eliminating stresses out of your life. There's things you can eliminate, and there's things you can't eliminate. The things you can't, you got to modulate. You got to say, what can I do about this? Do I need to do some things? Do I need to exercise, which is extremely important for the adrenal glands. And there's different types of exercise that are going to be a lot more effective. Some of these can be your HIIT type exercises, your interval trainings, and at the same time, I've seen people who do a lot of long distance running, long distance fast walking, things like that. They'll go for hours and hours. Not good on the adrenal glands. So there's types of exercise that are more beneficial than others. And we can go over those more in the future. And then, of course, if you're eating a good diet, you may not need as much supplementation. If you're exercising, you may not need as much help with all of this. But if you're not doing things correctly with your body, then you may need supplementation. You may need stricter diet changes. You may need to do other things to help those adrenal glands. And there's ways to support those and to help with the negative effects that they've already caused. And of course, we can see a lot of this information and really what your body looks like with testing. But, that's to get into things a little further. And if you need that, you can always contact us. But I hope this information helps. And I hope that everybody has a wonderful day. Cut out all the stress in the life as much as possible and do things to help it. And I hope everyone has a great day. God bless. Talk to you soon.